Okay, so uh, as I was saying, he was in the middle of a foreclosure, and he complained that his bill collectors were harassing him. They would show up at all times of the night and day. Um, he did mention that some of them were Jewish or appeared to be Jewish, and um, this is here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it's so competitive to live here, and it's so expensive, and you know, there seems to be an intolerance uh, for certain people. People who can't afford to remain in their homes here. People like me who get their civil liberties violated or experience police brutality, go to the police station, file complaints against them, and then they'll harass you. You'll see constantly in my videos throughout all of my social sites. My encounters with the police. Um, as if they don't have anything else to do. Um, and so I just thought it was worth noting, that all of a sudden I'm having these same kind of symptoms as well. His name is Torneen McCrumady, McCrummady. My half sister, which is the only child that he had with my mother, she took care of everything, the funeral and the death certificate and all that. So I never got to see it. I don't. I think he was cremated. Um, but his medical record, should be related to St. Joseph Mercy Hospital. I don't know if he's had a CAT scan before and he was adulterated with um, um, contrast dye himself, which rendered him in this condition. But also want to mention that there's this pharmacist, T. King is her name. Her first name is I don't know why I can't remember her first name. Sydney, I believe, Sydney T. King. Um, Apparently, she gave me some medication that appeared to be irradiated according to my scanner, and it also gave me um, symptoms of urinating blood and extreme abdominal pain. I made a video of her and asking her on my other phone if she did anything in addition to the medication to adulterate it, or did she feel that it was safe? And she said she felt confident it was safe and she didn't do anything to it. Then all of a sudden, I went to court the next day, put my phone in the locker at the 14A2 District Court, and then the Washtenaw County Sheriff, so the security for that came out, and my phone was locked up. Couldn't get back in it again. So I went and I made a video of going to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's, complaining to the sheriff about that incident, and also the fact that I had this video from the night before of this pharmacist that I wanted to upload as proof of the circumstance. And so I don't know what if the Washtenaw County Sheriffs have done anything about that or not, but they dismissed my allegations that someone could have broken my locker and changed my passcode on my device. I have very good memory. I'm intelligent. I've scored 170 plus on IQ exams. I only suffer from depression and attention deficit disorder. I've seen the same doctor for 10 years. He refuses these ridiculous, extreme, bizarre diagnoses from psychiatrists that only see me on one occasion at the University of Michigan. And those were times in which I felt, like suicide ideation, because I've been experiencing torture and torment here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, from students and residents and the police, not only Ann Arbor police, but Washtenaw County Sheriffs and University of Michigan police. I have videos of them accosting me, violating my civil liberties. They've trespassed me consistently on off the campus when I haven't done anything wrong or caused any disturbance, but they'll say that I did. Even when I call them for help, as I did in an incident. And then they showed up and flashed some type of radiation picture in my eyes and burned my eyes, and I had to go to the hospital for that. That was Officer Bueller. I have all that posted on my Facebook. Most of it on my YouTube account. I'm going to try to get it up, everything up there too, as well. So, I'm brave. I stay here because number one, I have a court responsibility. I have to go through these court procedures to prove my innocence, even though I'm a victim. Secondly, I grew up here, and I don't feel like I want to be forced from my home, and there's no reason to believe that this kind of harassment wouldn't follow me. You need to know there's this lady named Miriam Illich. She's a billionaire. She's on the Board of Regents with the University of Michigan. For some reason, she's volunteered her time consistently at a shelter that I was staying at, in which I experienced harm there with gas coming out of a ceiling and food poisoning. She volunteered her time helping to pass out the food donated by food gatherers. She deliberately went out of her way to create a talking relationship with me. And in one instance, I recorded her when she's asking me, why didn't I show up earlier to eat for lunch? And I told her, I'm being harassed by gang stalkers. It's terrible, and I have a hard time showing up on time. And so I've consistently been stalked and harassed by people because of that posting of her. They want me to take it down. I think she may have something to do with this, even if it's only to that extent that there's a video of her, associated with all of this in that shelter. I don't know why a billionaire would consistently volunteer to donate food at a homeless shelter like that, and then she does it incognito. She was going by a different name, but still with an M. And then she actually revealed to me who she really was on one occasion when I saw her and her son eating and drinking coffee at the Starbucks cafe on South University. And then again, I saw her son here at the Espresso Royale Cafe on South State Street. And when he was, 16 feet from me, I got some type of extremely painful blunt blow attack in the back of my head. I was actually sitting, let's see, I was sitting, I guess where that black couch is, right there where that man is sitting. And then he was sitting with the lady at that table over here. And then when I looked behind me, there was some type of black dye, like shoe polish in the back of my head, and I didn't even realize it. And so, and when he saw me look at that, then they both got up and left. So, I don't know. I figured he was mad because I have a video, on the internet of his mother. But I just find it, she said strange things to me that I didn't understand. Like she offered me figs one time. She said, "Oh, you don't want these? They have pits in them." I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about, but I just thought that was strange. And how would she know what I want or don't want? I've never had an in-depth conversation with her. So I just think it's strange. And the way the university has handled me, their trespass policy is unconstitutional. They perversely misuse the law. There's actually a Michigan statute specifically designated for trespass circumstances for an institution, for a University of Michigan, in a University of Michigan. But instead, they use the trespass statute for civilians and residents, which require any reason whatsoever for them to trespass a person. But they do have a trespass policy, but it's abused, by the law enforcement. If they think that you're homeless or you're not a student, that you don't have any official business, when clearly the state of Michigan requires that the university is made publicly available to everyone, not only just students, but also residents of the state, as well as those who are not residents. And so they're very, very aggressive at and discriminating and keeping people who aren't students or affiliated directly with the university to a professional or student capacity off of that campus, and it's wrong. And so all the charges that they ever brought against me for trespassing were dropped. But police showed up in my job. They sabotaged my job. They sabotaged my other devices. They sabotaged two of my jobs, showed up and sabotaged, and violated my civil rights. I've made a video of one of the incidences It was 3 cops showed up at a school that I would clean, relating to that incident. Shortly after I refused to take a plea for those misdemeanor charges, and then the same attorney, an attorney representing me in that case, Patricia Reiser, had me forensically evaluated by the state for mental competency to stand trial because, as she put it, I was difficult to work with and I wasn't willing to take a plea on a misdemeanor charge. It's like, I don't want a charge. I've never had a charge in I don't have a record. I only have a driving under the influence, which is almost the equivalent of a civil infraction, and that was taken care of in 2012. Otherwise, I'm not a criminal. And so the residents here in Ann Arbor, they support this. The students support this. They know this exists. They don't care, Of course, in a city like Ann Arbor, they don't want poor people here. They don't want homeless people here. They're racist. They're prejudiced. They're bigoted. If you come to Ann Arbor, you'll see the extreme polarity that exists socioeconomically. It's as if all the African Americans that live in this area are extremely ignorant, extremely dumb, extremely complacent, extremely simplified. So you would never, for example, experience a protest of civil rights by an African American group here because they just don't have the intellectual wherewithal, I believe, to do it. Or they know what I'm experiencing, that you stand the risk of being harmed or someone you love being harmed. And it's crazy. I mean, you think of Ann Arbor, Michigan, as a very extremely liberal place. It's so extreme that they welcome and have always welcomed illegal immigrants. I've had an illegal immigrant, 2 illegal immigrants, have chemicals around me that almost gave me a heart attack. I made a video of both of them. One at the ATA bus station, another one at Mexican, another one at the Ann Arbor Public Library, right across the street from the ATA bus station. It's illegal to have illegal immigrants here, but Ann Arbor takes a different position about the constitutionality of that. And they have before any precedent has been set, allowing for illegal immigration here, to not be enforced. So it's just a strange, bizarre thing. I think it has to do with the fact that illegal immigrants are taken advantage of. I believe there's human trafficking here in Ann Arbor, in all forms, but especially in employment form. And I think that a lot of illegal immigrants get jobs with the university and other places here in Ann Arbor, and they're paid pennies on the dollar compared to other Americans. And it's all considered structural, functionally a matter of sustainability. It's wrong. But yet African Americans, because they're not immigrants, they're treated terrible and nasty, and they're pushed to live outside of the city, mostly in the Ypsilanti, a neighboring city, which is mostly made up of African Americans, I believe. Look, the reason why I haven't come forward initially and made a video like this explaining all this to you is because I know it sounds unbelievable and bizarre. Keep in mind, this is a university town. There's no nuclear power plant here, but there is a school on the college on the campus that research with nuclear materials. There's something called a spectroscopy machine, and they have various calibrations of it. And it can ionize anything from a piece of paper, to, I think, an object that is about maybe 15 feet, in diameter. And it can do this in a number of ways, with gas, with an electron spray, with a radioactive filament material. And these students are doing this and using them against people like me, or leaving them out in the public, to expose people as some kind of joke, harmful substances. And so it's, when you go take these substances to the police, they say, we don't handle them, we don't know where to take them to. I've tried taking them to the FBI here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the federal building. Um, the U.S. Marshals, they tell me, um, you're supposed to take it to the Ann Arbor police, and then they're supposed to investigate it and then bring it to the FBI, because that's the court building. There's only one time that they accepted something from me, and that was some stamps that somehow were irradiated and was giving off shock sensations to me. They did accept those, but nothing else. And finally, they told me, to leave, or they were going to trespass me, from going to the federal building. These are the U.S. Marshals, not the FBI. And then I call the FBI and try to make a complaint, and I tell them that my Google scanner is picking up radiation, and my other apps, that can measure radiation on my phone is picking up radiation from various substances that are either on my person without me putting it there myself, meaning in my possessions, like my bag or something like that, or in my walking path or something. And then they told me, I don't know if we can take that. That doesn't sound legitimate enough. We can't know if your device is capable of measuring radiation. So, you should start with your police department. And then I go there and they say they don't handle it. They'll take my story, but they don't handle it. Then at one time they told me to go over to the fire department. They don't handle it. I tried doing that. A firefighter came over and pretended to use a Geiger counter. It wasn't even on. He didn't even turn it on. He was pretending, and I could tell he was pretending. Then he threatened me and said something that, like, I'm on a thermal imaging camera, and that they pay $10,000 for that, and people shouldn't rely on thermal imaging apps, for their devices. They should. And it's like, I don't even know where he came from with all that and why he was telling me that, because I was asking him to evaluate a card and some bus tokens that I had received from some staff at the Delana Shelter Center that were giving me headaches the closer I put it to my head. Terrible. They're corrupt. And then sometimes they will they'll encounter me out in public in their big red fire engine, and they'll have their siren make some strange noise, not like they're going to a fire, and they'll park near me but not be doing anything with anyone else. It's like, I looked on YouTube, it's like, that's gang stalking, like first responder gang stalking. It exists in other places, and it's happening here in Ann Arbor. It's crazy. It's like U of M set up the circumstance to diagnose me with bipolar and psychotic episodes with of the delusional type. It's like, okay, maybe episodes, but no other doctor ever in my history